What is a wounded soul? Could there be things etched in your soul that need to be dealt with? What is soul healing? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Caroline, and on here we have conversations on all things purpose. Today I will be exploring that conversation with my good friend, Jane Muriuki. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Carol.
Another day, another episode.
Yeah,
Always
I
a
know.
great pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, conversations
Yeah.
are unending.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can put them that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like how you unpack the conversation or the topic of soul healing. And I like how you even unpack wounds of the soul. But where we'll start today is, what does that even mean? What does wounds of the soul mean? What does it mean to have a healed soul, if there is such a thing? Yes.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having me. And thank you also for this platform. I'm really excited about what it's doing and the life that it's transforming. So thank you so
Amen.
much. But I'm also excited also to share about this conversation. And I think, as you said, what is soul healing? I think that's a question that we get most of the time. The soul, what? Healing what? No, I think it's just starting from the foundation of who a human being is. And all of us have the tripartite part of us, which is the body, the soul, and the spirit. So most of us can connect to the body because it's what we can see, what our eyes can see. But then we also say that there's a spirit man inside of living inside you, the body, and that is who we are as human beings. But there's a part that gives life to the spirit and that gives life to the body, and that is the soul, which becomes your mind, your will, and your emotions. And when these parts are wounded, that is where there is need for healing the soul. So it's just about who you are, because the body is not who you are. There's a part of you at the core that makes decision about yourself, the identity that you carry for yourself. And that is where we have the soul. So in simpler terms, soul is defined as the body. Soul is defined as the mind, the will, and the emotion, or what we call the heart of man. Yes.
Oh, wow. So what does it mean to have a wounded soul?
So when we say you have a wound, let's start from what we can see and then we can bring it to the what is unseen, because the soul and the spirit are not visible to the eyes. The body, once you get hurt, you experience a cut, there's a bleeding that can be visible, right?
Yes.
There's a wound that can be visible on your skin, or if you're hit, there's a swelling or a scarring, a dark tan, or even, for example, a bump that can show you that actually you've been hurt, right?
There are clear indicators.
Clear indicators of that. So the soul also is prone to such kind of wounds. And normally they are not visible to the eyes as you would perceive them, but they're visible through the behavior and the emotions of what we represent outside. The moment you see sometimes someone crying, and for example, say they're crying from a place of hurt, not from a place of joy, that means they have a scar in their heart, right? The will of man is when they want to know the will of man has been wounded, it is a loss of drive, the loss of will to fight. Nowadays we talk about depression, and we talk about stress, we talk about people going through insomnia. Those are evidences that actually there's a part of you that is struggling with something. They're not really visible sometimes to the physical man, but there's a part of you inside of you that is yearning for a core or a wholeness, and they represent themselves in such kind of states. Sometimes also the mind, the inability even to make decisions. Anytime you're faced with undecisive action and you don't know which decision to make, fear, anger, those are indicators, negative emotional responses. They point us to wounds that we are carrying inside of us. Yeah? So there are definitely different ways to look at it. If it is a mind that is hurt, if it is a will that is hurt, if it's an emotion that is hurt, there are different negative indicators of it. And the same way also when you talk about a healing the soul, you also have healthy souls. And we can also see to the indicators of our behavior. There's joy, there's laughter, there's clarity in making decisions, there's a lot of hope even towards life, because this person is drawing from the sense of having a healthy soul. So the opposite of a healthy soul is a wounded soul or an unhealthy soul. Yeah.
Wow. I would like us to delve even deeper into how the soul gets wounded, how to identify I'm not okay in certain areas. I could be okay in some, but I'm not okay in others, and how that even affects our daily life decisions. And how we can fix that. I know that's a mouthful.
Yes, quite a lot. But I think we can have it in different levels of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think I want to start it from a simpler point of view. Yeah? I think that one of the discussions that we've always had is sometimes when you talk about going for therapy, going for counseling, and the terminology that these people use, they feel like a whole jargon for so many people to unpack, But in the simplistic way, that you can unpack it for yourself is being able first to identify there is a problem. Then that needs me to start addressing it, and then I can figure out how to go about it. And the first question that I think I want to pick is what you asked, how would the soul get wounded? As a human being, you're interacting with other human beings. That's a start.
Yes.
What they say or they don't say can create a wound, because sometimes we think we experience wounds from a point of what we receive, but even what is not being said creates wounds. And I think I've also had different conversations around people who say they grew up in a loving environment. Even the environment within which we grew up in can be a source of that wound, whether there's too much love or there's even withholding of that love can trigger a scar of even a belief of who you think you are, When you talk about the mind, it's what are you exposing yourself to? Probably it's something that someone said, and then you believe it to be truth. And then that becomes the truth that you carry it, that leaves you feeling you are short of or less than a perfect human being. And the moment those entrants of these things come into your heart, they scar your soul. Let's talk about it even in schools. I think when you look at children when they're born and they're growing up in a very healthy environment, you can tell a child who is safe and a child who is not safe. Because there are cases where the voice would be raised and the children will continue to play. In some cases, the voice is raised and you see some children cowering over. That means they're already exposed to fear and fright. And that becomes a natural response to things. And those people, there are those children who will be free to go and explore life around. You go outside to play and you see they're out trying and figuring things out.
Yes.
But there are those who you see they're always clinging to their parent. Or that tells there's an entry of a wound at some point, either consciously or unconsciously. And I think that's the part that I feel like a lot of us sometimes think is like one particular thing that introduces the wound. Sometimes it's not as direct as we are thinking. Because when you look at the attachment styles that people have as they grow, there are those who come from a place of secure attachment. And these are children who've grown up to believe that they are enough and they can survive any circumstances of life. So they're confident in their abilities to make choices and to walk away from bad things, to choose the right things for themselves. They're very much confident about their identity. But then we also have the other category that you talk about, the anxious attachment, who are always fearful on the edge, And I think even the simplest way we can unpack it, let me just explain all of them and then we just unpack it.
Yes.
Then you also have the avoidant, who are always running away because they've never felt that soon as something starts to look like it's going to be, they've believed it will be taken away. So instead of putting themselves in a circumstance where they're going to experience the loss, they step away. And then you also have the disorganized attachment that have both sides of extremes depending on the triggers, So I want just to bring it in even in the simplest of these examples. If I call you and you don't pick your phone, which sometimes you do, right? What would be my first response? Oh, Cara might be busy, she'll call me back.
Yes.
That's a securely attached person. An anxious person will be like, oh, they're not picking my call.
Oh, wow.
Two extremes.
And that does happen. And sometimes I wonder, what is wrong with this person? So it's interesting when we have this conversation on light, or rather in the light that it could come from a certain state of the soul.
Exactly.
That will need to be analyzed.
Exactly.
Before it goes through a process of healing.
Exactly.
So you don't understand why does this person overreact whenever I don't pick their calls? And to you just,
It's just a phone call.
Yes. So the first response is, this is so immature.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to hear you say that it could actually be a wound of the soul.
Yeah, because there are two kinds of people. One will be like, why is Karen not picking my call?
Yeah.
Oh, what did I do wrong to her? And so they start internalizing that it's something they've done wrong that has caused, to pick the call. But if you go back, it's from a series of experiences that have left them broken and feeling less than. That they always have to always prove a point, always pursuing, just to fill in a gap, that if someone is not responding to me the way I want them to respond, then I am the problem. Then we also have the avoidant, who are extremely arm's length in terms of relationship and experiences of life. So you don't pick my call, oh, so now you are too busy for me, I will not pick yours back. I mean, come on, I was on the other extreme,
Yes.
And they're always running. In fact, I think I like how people put it, that most of the people who even ghost people, they're avoidants. They're not able to face on the issue or even have this uncomfortable conversation. They're always running away,
Yes.
And then you also have these others who are on extremes of both. So you don't know what you're dealing with today and what you're dealing with tomorrow. So in the simplest activities of life, they can be evident to whether we are having a wound inside of us, or even let me say it's a heart. And I'm saying heart, not the one that pumps blood. When you say that my heart did not feel like it, which heart are we talking about? And mostly what you're usually referring to is the soul, in different perspective.
Wow.
Is just being able to pick that, am I drawing from the healthy place or a secure place, or from a place of my wounds? So there's aspects of even anger, extremities. Like you said, there's someone you'll get angry, you didn't pick their call. Someone will be very nonchalant about it because you're going to call back. I believe that. Or you find 10 missed calls.
Yes.
If I didn't pick the first, most likely I will not pick the next one.
I may not pick the 10th.
Exactly. I mean, it really points us to some of the things that we need to address in our lives. And sometimes now, in the extreme cases where we find people also in situations of depression, where we have to address, this person has felt that everything is happening to them, not because it's part of life. And somehow the mind is conditioned to believe that that is their truth. So the fact that you didn't pick their call is because they're not good enough, and it's because of them. It's something they did. Even they start replaying a conversation that you may not remember, but they remember because they're in that state, you know?
Yes.
And it's important to see when the soul is wounded, because that is where we draw our existence or our source of being. Ideally, we should be drawing from the spirit, man. But a lot of us live in the soul. And that is what we call the carnality, or the flesh, what we represent on the flesh.
Yes.
I want to just unpack it in terms of also why we are talking about the mind, the emotions, and the will. People see the behavior on the outside. Like, for example, I may be sleeping a lot. That's a behavior that you're seeing, right? I might be yelling because I'm angry. That's a behavior that you're seeing, right? But there's a reason as to why I'm yelling at you. It's coming from a place, but the moment you hear my voice going up, already that tells you I'm angry. But what has caused me to be angry? There's an emotional undertone of that anger, right? And for that anger to be sourced, it's coming from a place of a belief that I have. And the belief could be, I need to shout louder for you to hear me. Because you're disrespecting me and I have to shout louder to assert my authority. And that is what I want us to go to, because you're going to the core of who you are. If that belief is not corrected, and if it is faulty, then that means anything else we are doing up here, either the emotion being produced and the behavior that we are evidencing, it's still going to be on the extreme case, or what we'd call extreme, for lack of a better choice of word. Yeah.
Wow. You've mentioned very practical examples that are not extremes of how our day-to-day dealings with other people and just with life, the routine of life, can show that there are things within us that need to be addressed. And then, of course, we also have the extremes. Of course, if somebody has gone through literal extreme abuse, let's say, for example, like rape, and how that can affect them in the later years of their life. So the question I have is, how do we go into digging and identifying issues within us that need to be addressed? And also, after we have identified, what do we do with them?
Very good question, Carola. So there's a perspective to it. First is about identifying what am I dealing with, and sometimes it's not as direct as you're saying, because sometimes when we say when you're wounded, you bleed on other people. So sometimes the people around you will notice, and they'll point out to specific things.
And many times we tend to be defensive.
Exactly.
So if someone asks you, why do you get angry when I don't pick your calls, even if I call back? So instead of you actually realizing it could be a problem, the first response is to get very defensive. Or even insult. Have you ever noticed that people will insult you if you address an issue that they don't want to deal with?
And I think I like that part. That a lot of people get defensive, and even some justify. Like, they take it as a badge of honor to wear the victim mindset. Yes, I reacted like that because you didn't pick my call. Had you picked my call, and then that is also what we call gaslighting, we are mirroring back, so it becomes a whole cycle, So I think,
what were you doing for you not to pick my calls?
Yes, because I mean, why should you be away from your phone? Which I think you should, but clearly, it's just getting that balance of everything.
Yes.
So I look at it from a perspective of understanding that anytime you find the people around you talking about a particular thing, reflect. There has to be some truth in it. Now, I know there's a whole narrative about also your belief system, because also, where do you draw your truth from? We're in an era where there's a lot of information. So if I'm on TikTok and that's where I draw my information from, that means I am exposed to this kind of truths. But what is it that I really do believe in myself? And I think fundamentally, actually, even the journey of going through the soul healing journey, it's not even about just addressing these things. These things are just what we call the iceberg principle. They're just the tip of the iceberg. What you're seeing is 10% of what is happening internally. I think there's this post that I saw that really transformed even probably how we perceive even soul healing. And this person was saying that sometimes people tell you stop these bad behaviors, but they don't realize the the
The
chaos that you
genesis, yes.
the chaos that you're left with when you've removed it.
Wow.
Because these behaviors are a significant evidence that I am covering up something. But what am I covering? And sometimes sitting in that ugliness, as you're saying, for example, I've been raped. It's an example.
Yeah.
For example, I've gone through domestic abuse, right? Or for
Yes.
example, I've lost all my investment through a very close friend. That introduced a serious broken level of trust.
Yes.
So even though you're telling me to stop behaving in a particular way, or even maybe I'm grieving, because I think grief is also one of the things that triggers people on the extreme to just even see some of the underlying issues. Even though I behave in the right way, as you want to put it, but there's a whole chaos that is happening inside of me, and that is what bottles up. So sometimes part of that is we need people to tell us and to become a torch or a guiding light to mirror back to us the things that we are struggling with. Listening to them with an open mind. However, I think also one of the extremes that we have is so sometimes a lot of people are not sensitive to the behavior. So they attack the person instead of attacking the behavior. Because when you attack the behavior, you don't attack the person.
Yes.
You figure out, if I'm seeing this behavior, there has to be a reason. Now we need to work on how do we deal with the reason. Otherwise, this person is not going to come whole. When you talk about even alcoholism, people look at alcoholism as the behavior of they're drinking.
Yes.
But there's a gap that is being filled by this alcohol. Now, which gap is that? If we can fill this gap and understand why this is happening and we start working on this, then all these other things will change. And I think that's actually what we do even in the journey of Christianity.
Yeah.
And that's why you asked about how we can start the healing journey. Divinity is one of them. Because what you do is that you go back to the soul maker. He starts realigning your truth. What do you believe? If I believe I'm not good enough, it doesn't matter what you do up here. I will never be good enough. And my behavior will always show you that I'm not good enough. But if I start believing I'm good enough, even though this is my day one of believing, by the 100th day, you'll start seeing evidences that I'm actually good enough. So core of healing is that we go back to deal with the core of what do you believe. It's not as easy for some people to unpack what they believe because there's head belief and there's the core belief of who you are in the heart.
What's the difference?
The mind belief is what we are taught to be. How many people can quote scriptures head to toe? The Lord is my shepherd. He will never leave me nor forsake me. But soon as heaven is silent, oh, God has left me. Why God? You know, I mean, this is just practical things that we do. Exactly. Yeah. Because that means you don't really believe that God is with you. It's not that you really believe. It's just that it's something that you've heard repeatedly over time. It's become a truth. The people will tell you education is key. To what? You've been exposed to education is key for 10 years, 20 years. So now you ask them, it's a key to what? They've never questioned it's a key to what. And telling this person that there's another way. And I think maybe our generations can actually echo that, Carol. Because you know when you are growing up, you not tell people that you're going to do arts, you're going to be an artist singing. For who? Where? Which artists have you seen making money? You know, I'm going to paint. You know, those are not maybe the things that they were being considered back then when you were growing up as opportunities for money, right?
Yeah.
But right now, it's being accepted, right? Already that tells you that there is a conditioning or a truth that was being exposed to us that is not the actual truth.
Yes.
Because right now we are seeing art. We are seeing the music industry picking up. So sometimes we even conditioned and receive our hearts from the institutions that we've grown into. Either the environment, the society, what we believe is a group mindset, you know? There's this ideology that, oh, a woman is good for this. And that becomes a truth. So the moment anyone deviates from the norm, what do? We castigate them. The moment you start castigating someone, what have we done? We've introduced a wound to them. They will never trust their fellow women. Like I was hurt by my fellow women. I was gossiped by my friends. You know? So there's so many things that expose us to possible wounds. And that is on the lighter note and even on the extreme note. And as I said, in both cases, all of us are susceptible to being hurt. And that is why it is very fundamental to have people around who can tell you the truth. Even when you don't like it, even when you don't feel like you want to hear it, because they point you to areas that you need to start addressing. And as I say, divinity is one of the best ways to address it because it also points you to start reflecting on the inward core of who you are. If I'm believing something different from what I know, then I need to work on my identity. I remember there's this exercise that we did, and they say, oh, God is a good father, you know. And on theory, on the surface, it sounds really good. But I think when I was doing my own assessment, I realized I didn't believe God was a father. And it didn't stem from him and his identity as a father. It was stemming from my walk with my father. So until I had to heal these parts of me, then I would be able to receive the truth of who God is as a father. Until I'm able to forgive myself. There's no way I can forgive you, Carol. And how do I forgive myself if I don't believe that God actually forgave me for everything I've done wrong? As I said, divinity is a very key part of healing that soul, because you're drawing your truth from who God is, not from who you think you are or what you're saying you are or what people are telling you. And if you keep doing it from an external point of view, because there are other practices that people make, like you can do meditation. Critical, what are you meditating on? It's also very important, right? But we realize a lot of these other practicals that we give people, which are very good because they help you to carry through the lenses or the seasons of time. But sometimes you also forget, the moment you stop doing it, you roll back. Because now it becomes a fix. Let me call it like a light fix, not a quick fix, because sometimes it's not very quick. It's a light fix. That's why you'll find someone, it's like you're replacing the old with the new, without dealing with the actual issue. And that's why you find like someone might stop, someone might take up the gym as a way of dealing with a certain issue. But the moment they're out of the gym, what happens? They lapse back to the initial blueprint. Because in every human being, we have the conscious part of your mind. That is what you know, and that is what we usually talk about when you're awake. But there's also the subconscious part of you. And that is the one that carries a lot of these wounds. Because it becomes the blueprint on which you live your life. I think I would like also maybe like to roll it back when to the simplest. I like simplifying some of these examples.
Yes.
For example, you're sleeping and you hear people shouting. What is your first response?
Flight.
Run, right?
Yes.
Because you're not even conscious. You didn't even think.
Yes. You're like, if everybody is doing it, there must be a problem somewhere. So before you even figure out what the problem is,
you're running to.
Let me first rescue myself.
Exactly.
Then
but
I'll
from
figure
what?
it out to compel. Yes.
Maybe it was shouts of joy,
No. Kunakuwa tofauti ya. But I hear what you're saying.
So there's a subconscious part of you that reacts to things even without you knowing. If someone was to hit you, you've ever had those people like, you hit me and in the reflex of the moment, barely seconds, I hit you back. That's my natural subconscious response. There are those you will hit and they will take a step back. Those you will hit and they will hold you, or push you back, and those will hit you back. All these are just subconscious evidences of what is within us that sometimes we are not very cognizant of. And all of us live from both sides, the conscious,
and the
subconscious, and there's also the unconscious. And sometimes the unconscious...
Which is the unconscious?
The unconscious one sometimes usually comes from maybe... It's not something that we are premeditated upon it, but we've been exposed to it, not given it room. Like, for example, I've grown up in an environment where people are drunkards when I was a young girl or a young child. I will see it. It is entering into a state of... It's entering in the core of my mind. Probably I'll never meditate upon it. I'll never experience it firsthand. But it has been around me and I have seen it around me. So it becomes deep-seated within me. And at some point, it might resurface without you knowing that it's coming forth or reflecting itself, because it's still a core part of you. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I like what you said about there's a difference. Let me rephrase that. You said there's a difference between head knowledge and heart knowledge, which means, from the explanation you've given, head knowledge is knowing something, or rather having interacted with information about a matter, but not being one with the truth about it. So, for example, you give the scripture, the Lord is my shepherd, which means you can have the information in your head because you read that portion of scripture, but not be intimate with that truth, like not be one with that truth, to the place where it forms like part of the fabric of your soul, that it is one now with your subconscious. So that when you say the Lord is my shepherd, it's not just because you read it. Now you've become one with that truth. So you know God as a shepherd, not because you have the information in your head, but experientially you have seen what it means from walking out certain chapters of your life, that when the Lord says he is my shepherd, this is what it means to me as Carol. This is how it shows in my day-to-day life. How do we fix the misinformation? How do we fix the gap between knowing something in my head and being one with a certain truth? And when I say a certain truth, I'm not meaning like my truth, that person's truth. No, I mean truth is vast. The Bible has a lot. It has layers of truth. So it depends on which layer you're looking at becoming one with. But now, how do you bridge the gap between having the information in your head and becoming one with that truth, so that it fixes certain parts of your soul that are broken?
Wow, very, very nice one. Nice question. I like it. Also, let me just echo some words that you said because it will also lead us to the answer that we want to put on the table as the guideline or
Yes.
even the path that we can walk in. Said about being one with the truth. How does that word become part of you?
Yes.
And I think that also goes back down to our values. What are our values? You know, a lot of us just live life. We have no blueprint of what we can or we can't do. Like very few people stand on values and hold and uphold them to the core. You know?
Yeah.
That already tells you that a lot of us are not in one tandem with who we believe we are. We are probably reacting to things, or I like putting it this way, that we are not proactive, we are reacting. Yeah, you know?
Yes.
So, and when you live life from a point of reaction, you are responding to an external stimuli. But when you live from a life of proactivity, you're going to live it from an internal state of being.
Yes.
I don't know if you can recall when you were doing that book of 7 Habits by Steve Covey, there's something we learned about being in quadrant 2. And he was pushing people to see the value in quadrant 2 because quadrant 2 is a place you're operating from a place of purpose,
Yes.
from a place of being proactive, from a place of being organized, from a place of understanding that this is my core and my responsibility and I will do it. So why am I alive? And again, linking it all back to purpose.
Yes, the conversation we've had on purpose.
Exactly. Because
Yes.
what it does, it points you to areas of your life that you need to work on. Remember when you were looking at purpose, you were talking about and breaking down the things of, I have a skill. How can I improve on it, right?
Yes.
I have a gift, right? And in part of knowing my strengths, I also need to look at my weaknesses. And in part of those weaknesses, that's where you highlight the things that you need to unpack. So that's why I was pointing us back to purpose. If the purpose is clear, it becomes easier to start your healing journey because, again, as you said, it's difficult for people to harm you if you're walking a life of purpose. Because you're not deriving your core from the external stimuli, from an internal core. Sometimes also, as you are unpacking that, you realize that even the vision becomes clearer as you're moving, right? And the vision has its own weight. I think, Carol, we've had this conversation. You say, when you start living in purpose, first you'll also get a lot of attacks. But if your vision is much more clearer, it's easier to push aside noise. It's easier to not allow people to deter you from the journey. Like, for example, if I'm going from here to Mombasa, and someone wants to insult me at Voi, do I stop insult them back or I continue on course?
You continue on course.
And that becomes also a driving factor to start dealing as you're unpacking. You take in what is taking you to where you need to go. What is not for you, you are able to shed off. You stop carrying experiences of the past that you cannot go back and undo. You accept the reality, this is where I am at, this is what has happened. Is it going to take me to where I need to go? No. So I have to leave it. And if I need to leave it, if I cannot do it on my own, that's why we have counseling coming in. You go to therapists for this particular thing. We are unpacking. That these things should not become a block or a stop for us from going to where we are supposed to be. In fact, a lot of us realize that we struggle to become because we get stuck or we remain stagnant in particular aspects of our life. So you can find someone, their mental capacity is this, they feel inadequate. It doesn't matter what you say. And everyone, I think, and you talk even about that, everyone around can see the potential. But this person is not able to unpack it for themselves because they are still stuck on something. So until we go back and see, why are you stuck here? You know? And because, as I said, sometimes some people thrive in very many aspects of their life. And then maybe in relationship is the only place they are struggling. And because of that, when you start unpacking, you realize, oh my God, it's because there's a wound that has been propagated. Probably even they've grown in an environment where they're seeing relationships don't work.
Yeah.
And their core belief is like, me relationships, I don't want stress.
Not my thing.
And they're not my thing, you know? And there are those also who come from a place of hunger. They want this core relationship that turns around everything.
Yeah.
But some of these things that we're desiring from men is also a capacity that you can only receive from God. As I said, the divinity aspect has to come in. Because there are parts of truth that you carry that only God carries. He is truth. If you don't draw that truth from him, any other thing you pick along the way is feeble. It's frail. I think the word of God says that all these things will pass away. But his word will never pass away. That is the truth. So any other truth, like now I can be listening to you telling me, oh, I've got to wake up at 5 a.m. You know,
Yes.
I can do it very routinely. But there's a place I will reach and I realize it's not bringing me the joy and the satisfaction that I need in life. And that is where you start realizing there are gaps in your life. And pointing them back to the soul of who God is becomes easy to draw you out. So I think I would like to encourage us, I think even in our journey and in our walk, that what we define as truth should be the word of God. Anything outside that is bound to its limit. It can only
Yes.
work to a certain point, but it will not carry you through to the very end. And then secondly, is to also assess areas of your life that are stagnant. If things are not moving, there is a wound. And sometimes the wound may not necessarily be as direct as we are thinking, because we think it's hurt. The wound can be it's the lack of knowledge even on how to progress past this. The inability to make choices because you don't know what choices, options you have. You know, like for example, if I tell you to make a choice in a menu of a list of food and you cannot even understand what is on the menu, I'm not giving you a better option because you can't make a choice. Okay, you can
Yes.
choose something, but you don't know what it is that you're making. And sometimes you can get stuck on that place unless someone breaks it down and explains to you, this means this means this, then you can make a decision, right? And so sometimes we live life without understanding that even we need the capacity of other people, of where I have a knowledge gap, Caroline can assist me on this. I have an identity gap. I need to spend more time in the Word of God to find myself. For example, I need a skill. I have a skill gap. I need to go back to school and acquire this knowledge. But above all is the ability to discern that. That actually the issue I have is a knowledge gap, it's a skill gap, it's a content gap, it's a relationship gap. As I said, some things you just need the right person to direct your path. But you don't realize that you need a person. So you are stuck in your own capacity and in your own ability. And I think consciously understanding who you are, consciously living life, consciously being able to unpack when things are not working and be able to list where the issue is coming from, those are part of the steps of how you realize where you're stuck. And also it guides you to where you are supposed to be going. And again, at the very end, it's impossible to do life without God. And I think I'd like to echo that as much as possible.
Wow. I'm still thinking about this statement you made about how chaotic it can get when we decide to deal with certain issues that are going on in our minds, in our hearts. And it gets me thinking that it's hard work to go through the journey of bringing wholeness to our soul. It's hard work to undo what has been done when we didn't know the things that we now know. It's hard work to fix that so that we experience wholeness in certain areas of our soul. And it is hard work for us to become the people we're supposed to become. Or rather, let me put it this way. It's hard work to work towards wholeness of the soul, which is what will help us to also be effective in our purpose walk and effective in bearing fruit in our assignment, our life's assignment. What are your thoughts on the power of meditation when it comes to restoration of the soul? And how do we meditate rightly? When you talked about the difference there is between having head knowledge and having heart knowledge, I thought a bit about this movement of affirmation. And I have nothing wrong with affirmations because I see that the idea is derived in part from the Bible. It matters what you say about yourself, about situations, and about others. But the thing is, these affirmations, what are they rooted on? Understand? It's one thing when I decide to make certain declarations from a place of understanding. It's another when I decide to make declarations simply because someone said it is a good idea for me to make certain affirmations. That if I make them from a place of understanding, that truth will even make me be consistent because it's coming from a much deeper root. And it's not a superficial thing for which I will look for the next new thing that, and then, get on that boat. Let's go with this one. And then when there's a new thing, I get on that one because I'm not rooted and grounded in truth. Not from here, but from here. Like you said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. What is that? What do I have in my heart? The heart not being, like you said, HEART, like the one that is pumping blood, but being the soul. What is that thing that is abundant in my soul that if I was hit in my sleep, I don't have to consciously think about it to say, I'm so full of it that it will naturally just flow out without me consciously deciding to have it, just come out. What are your thoughts on meditation when it comes to restoring our soul and walking in true empowerment.
In fact, I like that because I like when you're just explaining it, when you're talking about us becoming one with what we believe in. Because I think a lot of us, as you said, we are an affirmation. These are external stimulus that we're always looking for.
Yeah.
And the moment you stop declaring these words, what happens? You stop believing. In fact, and I think a lot of people have
And then the
commercialized
question becomes, did you even believe in the
you didn't
first
even believe
place?
it. It's just that you're like, when it's always in front of you, it can become a routine, and it becomes a routine. But the moment it's out of your sight,
Yes.
you start rolling back slowly by slowly to what it's like you are doing what you had already done for like 1 year, then you
Yes.
start not doing. The next 2 years, you'll not be where you are at today because subconsciously you stop doing it. And I
Yes.
think one of the things that I'd like to echo also about meditation, and this is, I'm going to quote from the scripture. When God was telling Joshua, meditate upon this word day and night.
Yes.
That means you have to spend so much time in it that they become part and parcel of you. There's never a single day you'll wake up and say, I will not do this. That's why I said, if you realize people who take the quick fix approach of what is working, like you said, quick fix, what is working? I need something that is going to fix this very fast. And a lot of us do that. Like, it's like applying crayon and cement. Makeup, yeah?
Yes.
You're applying makeup on your face instead of dealing with actually why is my skin breaking out. Probably
Yes.
it's coming in from a hormonal problem. It is going to take a lot of hard work and costs to deal with hormonal imbalance. For example, you also may be dealing that you're not drinking water well. It's your diet that needs correction. Those are the underlying things, right? But it's easier to do makeup and move on to cover up what is inside, right? And I want us to be very intentional about life, not to cover up things. Because once it is fixed on the core, it fixes everything. It might take a bit longer, but it changes everything. So how do you become one with this word? I said, what do you believe in? And I think it still points us back to spending time on ourselves is, why am I living life? Why am I here? What am I doing? If the why is clear, then all these other things, I will put in the effort needed. I will put in the responsibility that, I will take up the responsibility that is on me with a lot of joy and gladness.
Yes.
I will honor the words that I speak because my word is truth. Because I've spent time in God, I understand that what I say should be truthful, right? I believe in myself, not because of who I am, but because of where I'm drawing my strength from.
Amen.
And I think that is where a lot of us sometimes miss the gap. That for you to become one, it has to come from a place of transformation, having soaked yourself in an atmosphere that allows you to believe that which is being said. It is not entering just through your mind, and it is becoming a fundamental truth to your core. And sometimes one of the things you will find, again, I think I like the scripture that says that what goes into a man does not defile him, but what comes out of him. It already tells us that already internally your mind is at war on what to believe and what not to believe. There are voices speaking to you, and I think we just had that conversation pre-shoot. Conversations around us. But which conversation do you choose to carry?
Yeah.
And whose voice is louder? And that also points you back to what is your bottom line truth and the foundation. So if your truth is God, his voice becomes louder. It's not that you not have these voices, It's not that you not have different opinions. It's not that you not experience life that will trigger you at some point to question ABCD, right? But there's a belief system that you have. And that's why when we were talking about the value, I said it points you back to your core values. Do I live in honesty? Do I live in integrity? Or do I live in the circumstantial situations? That today I'm like this and tomorrow I'm like this, depending on who is the audience and what is before me and the opportunities around the table. But can I stand firm in saying that this is me? If you meet me this year, this is me. If you meet me next year, yes, it will still be me. An improved version of the same values, just growing over time, being solidified or being grounded. Or am I just living in the moment of being reactive to my environment? So there's a whole commitment to conscious living. So I'm not looking at meditation as just the aspect of soaking yourself in just the word. It is soaking yourself in the word, making it practical in your life, living it. Living it even when it hurts you. Living it even when it's going to cost you something, right?
Yeah.
And the moment you start living it, it starts getting solid truth because you start seeing results of it. And I think that's where I would encourage us to spend more time in. That whatever lessons we get, it's one thing to have head knowledge, but practical knowledge sometimes solidifies what we already know.
Yeah.
And now when it becomes practical to us, then we start already believing it because we've seen the fruits of it. And that's why sometimes you would ask, like, for example, someone would shout your name and you'll answer Because I've called your name for so long.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe you're called Caro, it doesn't matter how many times I call you, you will not answer. So overall, I think we have a responsibility to ourselves. And this is more of, I keep saying that every day when you wake up, it's like unpacking yourself and the responsibility and the identity that has been entrusted to you. And the moment you become conscious of that, then life becomes beautiful. In fact, I think I like some words that I've heard over and over again. That honestly, life is not difficult, Caroline.
It's not.
It is not difficult. We make it difficult.
Yeah.
Either by the choices that we make or the choices that we refuse to make. And why am I saying that? It's not that there will not be consequences. There will be. But these consequences are black and white, Like I can make this decision, it will lead to point A or B. So there's a choice that I need to take. Either way, life is full of different choices. Either we make or we don't make them. And that is the simplicity of life. However, why do we want to make it complex? When we choose to be passive about it, we don't want to take responsibility for it. That complicates the whole equation. So in it being hard work or working hard, if I can interchangeably use the two words, there has to be some effort that goes in. I mean, I can accept that sometimes we are not, even where we are at, we are products of different people, different experiences, our families, our environment. But can you keep on being stuck where you are at, saying that, no, like I came from this kind of background. I mean, you're here, but we need to move. You're going somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And I know when the destination is clearer, life becomes easier. Because like, for example, I'm saying, if I know I'm going to Mombasa, there's no way I'll be boarding a car to Moyale. Why?
Wow.
If I know I'm going to Mombasa, there's no point of me heading to Kitui, I need to know where I'm going. And if where I'm going is not clear, then again, that means every decision I make from now henceforth, I would call it like kama bahati nasibu, It's like I'm gambling with life,
Yes.
As I said, life is not complex, but we make it complex when some of these clarities that we need to start even the healing journey are not there. Luckily, some survive it. And I think luckily some of them find their path, But the question I usually ask myself, and that keeps me on my toes every day, at what cost? Yeah. And I think, as you said, let me just also quote the parable of the sower. The different gifts, they were given to different men. So the parable of the sowers. There's a parable of the talent. Yeah. To the one who was given one, they decided that they will go and bury it on the ground. One was given 2 work days to produce 4.
For
The one
each
was
there
given
was
5,
consequence.
worked to produce 10.
Yes.
And why I'm saying this is also a very intentional personal journey is because if you were given 5 and you look at the one with 2 and you think because they have 4 and yours is 6 or 7, you've done more because it looks more. But that is not your capacity. So this is more of it's a reflective journey of who you are and what is inside of you. So you have to be very intentional about it. It's me achieving every gift and every desire and every purpose that has been woven inside of me, unpacking everything inside of me. And I like waiting miles. When he was saying when he was going to die, he said he knows he will die empty. He has emptied himself of what was put in him.
Wow.
How many of us can boldly make that statement?
Why?
Kazi kwetu,
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm just thinking about, a couple of things. One, that discovering yourself is a journey. It's an intentional journey. And you have to be aware that it's a key thing and it's a key reason why you're here. You are supposed to discover yourself, but now through the lens of God's eyes. How does God see you? But it is still a journey of self-discovery. And if you're not intentional with it, you'll miss out on so many good things. You'll miss the destination. Because you won't even understand where you're going. And if you can't understand where you're going, or rather what the end game is, you're likely to make decisions that are not in your best interest.
True.
It will be so easy to go with the flow when you lack the understanding. What destination am I actually shooting for? What am I really rooting for in this life? Because if we have that understanding, I'll understand why I need to do the hard work of unpacking the things within me that are not right. And there is nobody that is exempted from taking this journey. There is nobody who has like a perfect soul. Only Jesus had like a perfect soul. All of us have things we need to unpack. All of us have to deal with some kind of chaos that we are avoiding. I think one of the things that really hit home today just having this conversation with you is the fact that sometimes we avoid dealing with things because the minute I decide I will deal with it, there'll be this whole truckload of chaos that will come to the surface, which will even feel worse than just covering it up and moving on with life. But now the dealing with the chaos will help me become a better person and will help me achieve the goals that I have in life much more efficiently and much more effectively.
And in
And
fact,
also,
just to emphasize on something that you're saying,
Yes.
in fact, the goal of having the soul healing coaches is part of helping you to manage the chaos. Because again, it's like if you open a tap with so much pressure all at once, what happens? Everything spills out, right?
Yeah.
But the coaching process takes you a step at a time as you're unpacking. Systematically, you
yeah.
will get there.
Yes.
But as you said, Rome was not built in one day. So I
Yes.
just want to highlight that because sometimes people want to do it on their own, and the moment you see that it oozes out and it scatters everywhere, you not like it. It's not a nice scenario, you know.
Yes, yes.
But if you allow yourself or submit yourself either to a therapist, to a coach to work with you systematically, to a counselor, you start unpacking it in a way that is structured, and the right counselors will help you get there. Yeah.
Wow. The other thing was also when it comes to the meditation and the power of meditation. And in my opinion, I think that meditation is important because as simple as it might sound, one of the things that actually happens if you're not used to meditation is you realize how much noise goes on in your mind when you decide to be still and quiet, because there are all these thoughts. Ulifunga ile tap ya nini? Na ile pasi bado haiko kwa moto. Ulipigia, hebu kwanza pigia nani juu utasahau. And well, that call will take you like another 5 hours. So when we decide to be still, we realize there's so much noise going on in our mind that stillness naturally can be challenging when we are not used to the habit, the practice of stillness. But that it's one thing rather that is so key to rewiring how we think.
True.
The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. If I can be deliberate with my thoughts, if I can be deliberate with what I think, I can be deliberate with my life.
Yeah.
The Bible says that God said to Joshua, on this word will you meditate day and night, and then shall you make your way successful. So success is tied to meditation. And you cannot separate the two. And the question is, what are we usually meditating on when we are not consciously meditating on the right things?
Yeah.
Because when we are not, we say that in the spirit realm, there's no vacuum. So if I'm not consciously meditating on truth, I am meditating on something.
Lies.
You know, yeah.
And
yes,
lies.
on all the noise that I'm encountering as I live out day to day, the routine of life. I'm meditating on that without realizing, because I'm thinking, and meditation is simply musing over a matter over and over. So it means I'm musing over something over and over and over and over, but without being intentional about it. So if I'm intentional about meditating on truth, I can rewire how I think.
Yeah.
If I rewire how I think, I can rewire the outcome of my life. So how to change my life is to change my thought process. And how to change my thought process is to change the things I meditate on. And I have to be intentional about that. And it's usually not an easy thing to do.
Exactly.
It's easier to make noise. It's even easier to pray in tongues than actually to take time and consciously meditate. So that also means I have to be intentional with the things that I allow through my ears, through my eyes. Any gate of information, I have to be careful, because whatever comes in will be going over and over, in my mind, if I don't consciously deal with it.
And also the influence what you speak, like anything that you allow to get inside of you. And it's also easy to pick actually what is coming from within, because of the words that you speak out. And when you realize, as you said, you're not speaking life, then that means I've been allowing death to come in through one or another,
Yeah,
very strong word to use, but it's true.
It's true.
And then that's where you stand and you ask yourself, what am I allowing? And even who am I allowing to speak into my life? Because I think even the who also matters. I think part of the doors for wounds is the who. Some of this experience, when doors that we deal with, is probably someone who's been told by the parent that you are good for nothing. We didn't even want you, Or
you are an accident.
You're an accident, or you're stupid, These are things that people hear right from home.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that has become a truth for you. That's a door that that has been opened, that is speaking to your life.
Yes.
Only for you, even when someone is telling you you are good, you are wise, you're smart, you not see it because it's a voice. So the who is also very critical. Because sometimes if you're not careful on the who speaks, it can become so much detrimental to your
Yes.
wholeness. Yeah.
As we wind up, what would be like the key takeaway that you would want somebody watching this, or what would just simply be your parting shot to today's conversation?
Wow. I think it's important for us to know that at the end of the day, we are stuck with ourselves.
Where?
So any choice that you make reflects back on you. I think when you bring yourself to that consciousness, and for me, that is a consciousness that none of us should lose. Because even on the judgment day, you will stand before God.
Alone.
Alone.
Peke yako.
Not with your spouse, not with your children, not with your friends, and worse, or not even with your pastors. So any choice, any consequence, any
Wow.
word, any action, it's entirely on you. So the question is then, what will you stand and defend?
And that's all we had for you today. My question is, can you see the places in your soul that need to be dealt with? Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to make yourself better for the journey that God has for you? Are you consciously willing to become one with truth? Have an amazing week.